Hey, Pretty Girl Club. Welcome back to the Soft Life series. I haven't made a video on this series in a while, but I've noticed that a lot of women on YouTube, one of their main talking points against pretty women is, oh, well, I have more money than you, and so I'm living a soft life. And it's like, first of all, what are your standards for a soft life? Because my standard of being soft actually includes having pretty privilege. My goal in life is not to be a millionaire who looks like a werewolf. That's not my goal. I don't want to be a billionaire and then I'm a beluga and then I have to spend 200K on lipo. That was not my goal for the soft life. So I wanted to talk about this subject because all of this privilege discourse that we hear online, the whole purpose of privilege is so you can live the life you have always wanted to live. And I think that a lot of women, they conflate the soft life with having money, or they conflate the soft life with having a man or having a white man or being hypergamous. You know, every woman has her own internalized standard of what the soft life means to her. And so, just like how you have an internalized beauty standard, I think that every woman also has an internalized soft life standard. So I just wanted to talk about this and kind of get this off my chest because I'm glad that us exoticals have our own little corner of the internet. I'm glad that we're not easily influenced and we get to decide what we're going to do with our lives. Like in my case, part of the soft life, number one, it's a life that's decentered from men. Okay, that is actually the foundation of me living a soft life. I'm not spending my free time chasing after male validation. I'm not staying with cheaters and dealing with alcoholic men and dealing with all these dusties and staying in these bad relationships. So that decentering men has actually softened my life a lot because I don't have to spend all of this time on YouTube watching these live streams where it's like, oh, why can't you get a man? Or, how to dress so that you can attract an old white man? Or, spending 8 hours on a hot ass golf course in the middle of August sweating profusely all because I'm trying to attract a rich white man. Have you ever seen those girls on TikTok where they will actually go and get a second job at a golf course so they can try to flirt with the older white men who are playing golf? I don't have to worry about that. Like, that is not my standard of the soft life. I don't want to have to get a second career and I have to show up, I have to clock in, I have to drive on a golf cart all day long. Like that's not soft to me. That's not my standard of how I imagine my life. And this is exactly why I feel like I'm not taking advice from somebody that I wouldn't trade lives with. So, if I wouldn't trade faces with you, I'm not taking your beauty advice. If I wouldn't trade pretty privilege with you, I don't want to hear your talking points on pretty privilege. If I wouldn't trade lifestyles, I don't want to hear your talking points on leveling up. And so that's why I want to talk to the Pretty Girl Club. And the question that you can ask yourself is, what is the most leveled up version of your life? So if you had all the money you could dream of, if you looked perfect tomorrow, if you had the perfect friendships, or if you went no contact with all these toxic people, let's say you quit your job, now you've got your quote unquote dream job. Do you have a dream job? Because, like in my case, I noticed I didn't even have a dream job. So I spent decades of my life trying to achieve a dream job. And then I realized once I hit about 30, I was like, wait, I don't even, that doesn't even resonate with me. The 9 to 5 structure in general does not even resonate with who I am as a person. So I was following societal standards without actually listening to my own intuition and listening to who I actually am. So, a lot of women, they're chasing after trends. They don't care about the soft life. They just care about looking like they have a soft life. And so that's why you have all these basic Betties at your job where they want to brag about the car they drive. They brag about how much money they have. They brag about the trips they go on. And they're doing that to compensate for the fact that they're not pretty, number one. So they're trying to convince you that their life is softer than yours. Have you ever noticed that? When you're the pretty girl, when you're the beautiful exotical, everybody wants your validation. They have to tell you about the vacation they went on. They have to announce to you that they got in a relationship with a man who looks like you. They have to announce to you that their babies look like you. Why? Well, it's because your existence, you are the standard of the soft life. You're proof that the soft life exists because First of all, your features and your face and your beauty, that gives you a softness. And then also, you've got the collective image of living a soft life. Us exoticals, we are stereotyped as being spoiled and, thinking we're cute and thinking we're all that. We're stereotyped as being coddled and babied and pampered. Okay, so according to society, clearly I'm already living a softer life than most. And I feel like a lot of women, they're obsessed with vacations. And I love traveling and stuff too, but it's like, ma'am, you only go on a vacation a few times a year. So bragging to me that you went to the beach last month, that's really not the flex you think it is, because that's not even my standard of the soft life. I don't want to be trapped on the beach for 8 hours, sitting in the sun, getting burnt up, looking like a Vienna sausage. That is not my definition of the soft life. So a lot of women, they're bragging about things that I don't even look up to. So I want to talk about how you can create your own internalized standard of the soft life. So it's very similar to what I said about creating an internalized standard of beauty. And as a matter of fact, you can use your beauty standards to create your soft life standards as well. So, for example, a part of my beauty standard is mermaids, elves. I like fairies. I like anything that's like an ethereal creature. And I've noticed that my standards for the soft life overlap with that. So, for example, a lot of princesses, they like to pick flowers, they like being out in nature. They're really good with animals. Some of them can communicate with animals. And I've noticed that in my everyday life, I actually enjoy that stuff. I enjoy being out in nature, picking a flower or putting a flower in my hair, kind of like Moana. So other women on YouTube, they're over here overcomplicating the soft life. You had to go to school for 10 years and then climb the corporate ladder. Meanwhile, all I had to do was put a flower in my hair and I'm living the soft life. So do you see the difference? I think that my internalized standard of the soft life is simplicity. It's simple. It doesn't have to be this super difficult thing where you have to jump through all these hoops. I'm not in a rat race. I'm not participating in a hamster wheel. I know how to get pleasure out of simple things. And so that's why I feel like the soft life can actually be attained at any socioeconomic status. So it might look a little bit different. Yeah, maybe you're not a billionaire, but you still have a simplicity about your life. You have peace because maybe you've decentered men, maybe you broke up with your dusty boyfriend. You're not stressed out about cheaters and liars and, men who are trying to deceive you. So I think that some women, they move the goalpost for what the soft life is, and they're constantly moving the goalpost for what like leveling up is and all that and social climbing. And it's like, no, this is my life. So guess what? I like making myself feel and look like a fairy princess, and I like to wear skirts. That's actually another one of my very simple soft life activities. Wearing those cute skirts that kind of flare out, or wearing tops that kind of remind me of like a corset, or it's like see-through a little bit. For some reason, see-through clothing kind of reminds me of a fairy. And when I say see-through, I'm not talking about over smegdualized clothing. I'm not talking about like stripper clothing. I'm talking more so about, those flower dresses where maybe part of it is see-through, or it's like this mesh material, or it's like lace, kind of like a lacy material. Just stuff like that is also another one of my soft life hobbies. So, for the Pretty Girl Club, my question is, what are your soft life hobbies? Do you have anything that you like doing and maybe it gives you a sense of peace? Because it doesn't always have to be something expensive. The reason why some women try to make the soft life expensive, it's because they want to feel superior to you in terms of money. They want to try to be a gatekeeper. They want to try to exclude you, and then they try to make this talking point where it's like, "Oh, you may be pretty, but you're not a millionaire. Oh, you may be pretty, but you're not a billionaire. So and so other person is richer than you, therefore her life is softer than yours." No, that's actually not true. There are plenty of rich people who live terrible lives. And some of them actually, they get into a lot of debt. Some of them squander their wealth. Look at all the people who won the lottery and then like they lost their money or whatever. So I don't think the soft life is just revolving around money. And I also think that some women, their definition of the soft life, if it's not male centered, it's money centered. And I mean, I am pro money, obviously. I have a business and everything. But you guys know my standard. So I've told you guys that I decentered men, and some of you guys have asked, if you decenter men, what do you center your life around? If you're looking at the decentering men chart, what have you replaced in the center? For me, it's my emotional, physical, and mental health. So that's actually my standard for the soft life. So I could be the richest person in the world, but if I don't have peace, if I don't have self esteem, if I don't have like a sense of confidence or whatever, then I'm still going to be depressed. It's still a depression trigger. So that's my internalized standard of the soft life. And I think that's why it's easier for me to feel a sense of softness. And one thing I like to do is look back at my memories, because your memories actually tell you something about the direction you want to go in life. Okay, so for the Pretty Girl Club, this is your Pretty Girl homework assignment. What is your favorite memory from the last 3 months? So it's August when I'm recording this. What is your favorite memory from this summer? What was the best day that you had so far this summer? Was it going to the beach? Was it picking flowers? Was it hanging out with a friend or a family member? Maybe you got a certain dress that you really loved. Maybe you lost weight. Maybe you finished college. Was it achieving something? Was it becoming something? Because in my case, part of what makes me feel soft is the process of becoming something. So in my case, it's not so much about the achievements, like the numbers, oh, I have more money than her, or my car is newer than hers. It's not so much the achievement that makes me feel soft. I notice in my case is the process of becoming. That actually is more inspiring. So that's why I talk sometimes about like college, because I think college is a really good analogy to use. When you're in college, the reason why so many people have fun in college, it's not because of the atmosphere and the parties. That's not the only reason. It's because you're spending 4 years becoming something. You're working towards a goal. So you have a sense of purpose. You have a sense of wanting to finish something. So to the pretty girls who are wondering about the soft life, what was your favorite memory in the last 90 days? And I guarantee you, it probably had nothing to do with being a millionaire or billionaire. And it probably didn't have a lot to do with a man either. And part of what makes me feel like I'm living the soft life is whenever I feel like I'm living in a fantasy world, I don't know how to explain it, but having the freedom to have an imagination, I think that gives me a sense of living the soft life. Being able to imagine certain things and being creative, that's a part of why I love editing the images for this YouTube channel. I love showing like dreamy images or like aspirational images of body goals and, showing all these pretty pictures of women from all over the world. Because this is not an Afrocentric channel, so I have no problem using women of other races to represent beauty on this channel. So I like showing diverse, ethereal, inspiring, kind of dreamy images because pictures are kind of like a portal. It's supposed to suck you in. You're supposed to it's almost like this version of hypnosis in a way. I don't know how to explain it. Sometimes I use spiritual language on here. I don't identify as spiritual, but I feel like even the types of images I use on this channel, it's supposed to inspire you guys to think about yourself. You're supposed to be picturing yourself within the image. And so when I think of what the soft life means to me, it means that my life is kind of like a movie. So I am the princess in my own life. I don't have to prove how soft I am to another woman. I don't have to prove that my lifestyle is better than hers. No, because there is no, I'm already the star in my own world. That's why I'm not intimidated when other girls say, oh, I'm the prettiest, I'm the baddest bitch or whatever, or I'm the prettiest girl in the world. She is the prettiest girl in her world. You're living in your own world because reality is really just, how they say, oh, your thoughts create reality. Okay, so then you're the only one in your thoughts, right? Are you not the center of your own thoughts? You are. And so your thoughts are really your world and your personal reality, that is your world. So I think that the soft life for me, it means curating my own personal world where I feel safe. I want my life to feel whimsical. And I talked about that too. A lot of people get mad when you're a pretty girl who's also whimsical. So A woman who's whimsical, that's a part of my standard for the soft life, by the way. Shout out to all the whimsical pretty girls. Shout out to you and your pretty dresses and your pretty nails. And, I think it's such a beautiful thing to be able to like express your femininity as well and to not have to walk around worrying about all these stereotypes holding you down or, I think part of what makes life hard for some women is feeling like they're constantly fighting against something. Oh, I have to fight against all these isms. I have to fight against systematic racism. I have to be a social justice warrior. Okay, well, now I have to go protest. And then I have to become an activist. And then I have to start all these nonprofits. No, actually, you don't. You really don't. I mean, for some people, they want to, but if you don't want to do that, you actually have free will. That's another one of my soft life standards is being able to use my free will. Do you know how many women live their lives in a prison? The only thing she does, she just goes to work, she goes to the gym, and she goes home. That's it. Work, gym, grocery store, and home. Those are the only four places that she has been in the last 20 years. She doesn't explore anything. She's not. So it's like, ma'am, that's not my standard of the soft life. Part of my standard is I get to explore. So I don't have to be trapped in the grocery store and, I can only go home and I only have a couple hours after I'm done with my 9 to 5 that I hate. No, that's not my standard for softness. One of my standards for softness is also having the freedom to change. I've noticed a lot of women, they're very monocultural, and so they're not allowed to change anything. They have to always look the same, think the same way, wear the same hair colors, wear the same outfits, wear the same style of manicure, same style of pedicure, white nails, white toes, same makeup, clean girl makeup, only neutrals and browns and purple. That's it. So that's not my standard of softness. Part of my standard of softness is being able to dream and being able to transform. I'm very big on like transformation, being able to transform myself, having versatility in my life and in the way that I express my femininity. So I don't want to be a monolith. I don't want to have this boring lifestyle. Oh, well, your life is not soft because you don't meet my standards for the soft life. And it's like, no, I don't have to meet your standards for the soft life. You're just a random person on the internet. You have no power over me at all. So the main part of what makes my life soft is guess what? I'm the boss. I'm the boss over Exoticals United. I'm the boss over what I get to do. I'm the boss over my body. And I think a lot of women will never achieve the soft life because they don't know how to take back their power and they're too scared to use their free will. Have you ever met a woman that has no hobbies? My standard for the soft life is having hobbies outside of the house. I do not want my apartment to be a prison. Oh, I just never leave. I'm just always trapped in this building. I'm just trapped at the grocery store. Okay, so what's the difference between you and somebody on house arrest? What's the difference? Because you guys are both living the same life. You can only go to your approved locations, which is, you go to the grocery store and then you go home and you have to stay within a 5 mile radius. Okay, you're living like you're on house arrest. You might as well get a probation officer right now. But my standard for myself living the soft life is having hobbies outside of the house. So I love to explore museums. Like I went to the museum with my friend a couple weeks ago. And then like we saw all the art exhibits and it was fun. We walked around. I got my steps in. I wore my cute outfit, which is my brown boots. I had my brown boots. I had my green little olive green vest on. And then I had my cute jeans with my hair in a braid and it was like super pretty. So that's a part of the soft life for me. It's exploration and it's having the freedom to not fit into a stereotype. I don't have to look like the rest of the girls within my kingdom. Like a lot of girls, they're living in somebody else's kingdom instead of building their own kingdom. And it's like, no, why can't I be the princess in my own world? Why can't I be the queen when it comes to my own like kingdom and palace? How come I have to follow your rules? Where did all these rules come from? Why do I have to follow your standards? Why can't I make my own rules? My standard of the soft life is I get to make my own social rules. And I've noticed that my internal beauty standard overlaps with this because when it comes to me liking fairies and elves and stuff like that, if you think about all those ethereal creatures, they really don't follow the rules. There's a lot of myth around those creatures. There's a lot of lore around like elves and fairies and stuff. Some people don't believe that they're real, some people do think they're real. And I think that as pretty girls, we actually relate to those ethereal creatures. You're basically like an ethereal creature in your workplace. You're basically an ethereal creature on the internet. There's all this lore about you. People make up stories about you. They've got your whole background story that they're literally passing on oral history about you. So that's why like the elves and fairies and princesses, they really resonate with me. Like mermaids and stuff. You got people on TikTok, they're like, "Oh no, I saw a mermaid." "Oh no, you didn't." "Oh, that's AI." "No, that's really the mermaid." That's basically how people treat you when you're the pretty girl. They treat you like how they would treat a freaking mermaid. Like, "Oh, she's real. She's natural." "Oh no, she's not. She's not real. She had surgery. She doesn't really look like that." "Oh, well, she's not really that pretty." Okay, so you're already being treated like an ethereal creature. You're basically being worshipped and pedestalized because gossip is still a form of pedestalization. They're still pedestalizing you. They're trying to figure you out. You're a topic of conversation. You're interesting. You're alluring. You're magnetic. They have nothing else to talk about, so they talk about you. So that's why I feel like as the pretty girl club, you already are living the soft life, or like you should live the soft life more than others, because you know what? Some people are meant to be in survival mode, and that's who they are. And they're hardworking, and they work hard on everything. They spend all their life toiling and being a mule, and they don't mind being a mammy or a caretaker for a man. And that's what they want to do. They want to be a nurturer to a white man, and they want to worship him and adore him. Okay, fine. If that's what she wants to do, that's her prerogative. But it's like, how come I can't choose a different life for myself? I can. So I think that part of how I created my own standard for the soft life was also looking at my internalized beauty standard. Why do I like Barbies? Why do I like elves and mermaids and fairies? Well, I like them because they touch on reality, but they also touch on fantasy because they kind of don't exist in a way. It's like they exist in story form, but then they don't really exist in your real life. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like when you're a child and you're more open-minded, then you like all those creatures. You think they're cool. But there's something about when you become socialized as an adult, people tell you what you can't do. A lot of women are living in a mental prison. They've been told what they can't do. Well, you can't dress like that. Well, you're too old to dress like that. Well, you're too dark to dress like that. Well, your hair's too nappy for you to be cute. Oh, well, no, actually, you're too black in order to call yourself an exotical. Well, you're too dark. You can't actually be mixed. So they've been socialized and brainwashed by other adults telling them what they can and can't do. And I feel like my standard of the soft life is no, actually, I get to determine who I am. I get to identify in whatever way feels most authentic to me. So why is it that other people, they can identify their own gender, their own political affiliation, they can rep their city or their hometown or whatever. Some people are repping a hometown that they're really not even from. They weren't born there, but then they choose to represent where they spent the most time. But then suddenly when it comes to the soft life, suddenly when it comes to a beauty standard, suddenly when it comes to being an exotical, oh no, you don't get to choose that. No, I have to choose it for you. Oh no, you don't get to tell me what your hair texture is. No, I get to decide what your hair texture is. I get to decide what your skin tone is. I get to decide what your features are. No, you're not the queen of my universe. Who died and made you the one that's in charge of my life or how I see myself? Some people, they want to control your self-perception. So that's why they get mad, and they want to try to tell you that because of how you look or because of who you are, that you don't have access to a certain lifestyle. And it's like, no, that's actually not the case. I get to determine the path that I want to go down. I have free will. A lot of women literally forgot that they have free will. So, they're too scared to go places alone. And it's like, part of what made my life softer was going to places alone and exploring on my own. As a matter of fact, going to college, I would say, was the first time that I experienced that. Because in college, it's kind of like the beginning of you becoming an adult. And you have to go to places alone when you're in college. You're going to class alone. You may not be on the same class schedule as your friends. So you have to walk there by yourself. You're doing the papers and studying by yourself. Sometimes you might, I don't know, maybe you do a project and it's a solo project versus doing a group project with other people. So I think that having a sense of independence, that is also a part of my standard for the soft life. So what you can do for the pretty girls watching this, you can think about the best memory that you had over the last 90 days. What was the softest hobby that you did? Do you have any soft life hobbies? What hobbies do you do outside of the house that make you feel soft and pretty or feminine, or it makes you feel carefree? Like in my case, I just said some of mine, like going on walks. Walking is very important to me. I feel like I always end up talking about walking on this channel. It's because it's not just a boring walk. I don't know how to explain it, but I am from a small town where walking is not an option. Like you have to drive everywhere. And so by the time I got to college, being able to walk everywhere and like feeling my feet on the pavement and hearing the sound of my high heels clicking on the bricks as I'm walking, and then feeling my hair blowing in the wind and feeling the scarf up against my neck. There's something about walking for me that makes me feel soft because it's a sign that I have independence. I'm not being driven around the city by my parents as a teenager. You know what I mean? Like I don't feel trapped inside of a car like, okay, I just have to get from point A to point B. No, I get to walk. I get to explore. I get to walk down a hidden side street and then like, kind of go off the path a little bit. I feel like with driving, a lot of people don't explore when they're driving because they tell you, oh no, that's a waste of gas. Why are you doing that? Why are you driving down this other street? No, don't do that. You're wasting gas, you're wasting money, it's irresponsible. So people have socialized you to kind of shrink your life as you get older. And I feel like in my case, the reason why going on a walk is important to me is because first of all, I like the sensations of it. I like stretching out my legs and I don't know, just like feeling the wind on my face. Even walking in the rain. I actually, when I was in my hometown, I would go on a walk, whether it was raining, snowing, sunny, and I would just get my umbrella and just go outside because it was my time to feel free. I wasn't just trapped inside of the house. So guess what? Walking, that costs $0. So you can't tell me that I'm not living a soft life. I feel like a lot of women, they have this mindset that the soft life is a monolith. The only way to have a soft life is to be married to a rich white man and that's it. And it's like, no, that sounds actually very limiting. So you're telling me I can't enjoy my life unless I become a multi-billionaire, which could take years. That could take years, that could take decades. So you're telling me that I'm supposed to spend several decades not having any softness at all, just living this hard life because I didn't receive the prize, aka a man who's white and, $1 billion? No. That sounds very closed-minded. That's a closed-minded theory on what the soft life is. The soft life is not a monolith. So for some women, they can feel soft without involving money or, without money being the main thing. In my case, money is important, but it's not the main thing. I'm not depressed if I didn't get paid or whatever. Some of you guys, a lot of you guys probably have 9 to 5s or you don't even get paid every day. You probably only get paid twice a week or once a month or whatever, every 2 weeks. So you're telling me that all these people in the world, they're just living these terrible lives until every other Friday? No, that sounds like slavery. I don't want my happiness to only be on the 15th and the 1st of the month. And a lot of women, they try to use money as a humbling tactic. And it's like, first of all, you really can't humble somebody in that area because you don't know that girl's financial background. She could have more money than you and you don't know. Just because somebody doesn't have like the newest car or something, it doesn't mean, oh my gosh, she must be poor, she must be broke. And I've noticed that women with inferiority complexes, they create these storylines about you. They love to create a story like, oh, she's probably poor. Even though she's pretty, she's probably poor. Even though she's light skinned, she's probably a bleacher. Her hair's long and curly. Oh, she must have relaxed it. It must be texturized. Oh, her hair is super shiny. Oh, she probably dyed it. Oh, she has naturally blonde streaks in her hair. Oh, no, she probably got highlights. So they always make up some story to try to convince themselves that your life is not as soft as what it really is. They're trying to discredit you. And it's like, no, those are the things that you wish were true about me. You want me to be unhappy. You want me to feel insecure. You want me to feel like I need to perm my hair or something. You want me to feel inferior to people who are white. And it's not going to work because there are many different versions of the soft life. For some people, the soft life, it doesn't include being white or white adjacent or married to a white man. So a lot of women, they have a male centered ideal for the soft life, and then they have a whiteness centered standard for the soft life. So they feel like if you're not white or white passing or married to somebody white or getting fucked by someone white, then your life must be hard. And then if your skin's not white, then your life is also hard. And then the darker it is, the worse it is. So darkness equals failure and it equals suffering. And it's like, what world are you living in? Sounds like your life actually is closer to hell. You know how some people, they don't believe in heaven and hell, they only believe that that exists on earth? Okay, well, it sounds like some of you guys are living in a mental hell, because why would I put all these random rules? Oh, I have to look a certain way, I have to act a certain way. No. How about I just go based on my inner child? When I was a little girl, before I had all these societal limitations, what did I think made me happy? What made me feel soft back then? Playing with dolls, playing with Barbies, using my imagination. I told you guys about my background and how I was very sheltered, and I talked about how I played with Barbies all the way up until I went to college. So I played with Barbies until I was about 19 years old. And that's because I didn't know that playing with Barbies is weird. I didn't know that, like, once you're a teenager, you shouldn't be playing with dolls. Nobody put that limitation on me. So I didn't have that limiting belief. So that's why I played with Barbies all throughout my teenage years as well. It's because nobody said, oh, excuse me, you're not allowed to play with Barbies. You're not allowed to do their hair and do their makeup and put clothes on them. That's weird. All the other kids are out sleeping with guys, and all the other girls, they're out going to parties and drinking when they're 17. So that's what you should be doing, Exoticals United. Nobody told me that. And I didn't get peer pressured. So some people, they're mad because you have maintained a sense of innocence. I feel like the fact that I played with Barbies until I was 19, that's actually proof that I was able to maintain kind of this sense of innocence almost, or like I was able to preserve my childlike imagination. That's not a bad thing. Being imaginative or creative. So for some of the pretty girls listening to this, maybe you have some hobby that other people think is lame. Maybe you still like coloring books. Maybe you still like coloring books, you still like painting, and that's quote unquote lame. Oh, well, you're not going to make any money. You're just going to be a starving artist. Everything doesn't have to revolve around making money. What happened to doing things because it makes you happy? So just because you're a slave, just because you're so broke that you have to be a slave to every single dollar that you make, I actually live within my means. So I am not over here like, dying of thirst for the next dollar. I don't have to live like that because I'm responsible with the money that I do have. And I understand that making money takes time and investing and stuff. So I got my little ETFs and all that. And then I take money out. Like I just took some money out recently because I made some money off of some of my investments or whatever in the stock market and all that. So I don't have to stress out like, oh my God, oh, if I'm not making money every minute of every day, then I must not be happy or my life is hard. No, it sounds like constantly chasing the next dollar. That actually sounds more hard to me. What happened to being magnetic? They have all these talking points. Oh, well, you can just magnetize money. Or like in the church, oh, well, God will just supply all of my needs. Okay, so then why are you so stressed about money then? Why are you bringing up money or trying to use money as a flex on pretty women like, oh, you don't have as much money as me, therefore you failed? Once you get out of hierarchy thinking, I feel like it's such a life changer. And by the way, that's probably another one of my foundations for what the soft life means to me. I'm not racing against other women to try to be richer than them. I'm not pocket watching other women. I'm not over here like, oh, well, she made $10 and I only made $5. So now I'm mad. No, I don't even care. Like part of the soft life for me is focusing on myself and being self-centered. Some women are not self-centered enough. You're not self-centered enough. You're calling me conceited. You're saying I'm arrogant. You're saying I'm self-absorbed. Well, it sounds like you're not self-absorbed enough. You're absorbed in me. You're talking about me. You're thinking about me. You're watching and tracking me. But when it comes to the soft life and how my beauty standard interacts with it, I feel like in my case, My internalized beauty standard, it may not just be one phenotype. Well, I know that it's not just one phenotype. I'm also attracted to a certain archetype. So that's why I brought up like elves and fairies and princesses and like mermaids and kind of like these ethereal creatures, even unicorns. That's not even a human at all. That's literally an animal. So bringing up all those things, that's a part of my feminine standard. And it's also a part of my beauty standard. And I've noticed that even when it comes to the soft life, it's a part of my standard. So some people, they like going on vacations to beaches because they want to flex it on social media. I like going to the beach because it reminds me of a mermaid. That's literally what I think of when I go to the beach. I'm not going there because I'm like, oh, I want to flex on these people and show it off on social media. No, when I go to the beach, I think about putting my feet in the water. I want to look at the color of the water because blue is that's one of my top three favorite colors. I love blue or like teal, which is like a slight green. It's like a greenish blue. So that's one of my favorite colors. So I actually get excited about the beach because I'm excited to see the colors. I am not thinking about, oh, well, I want to flex on this girl who thinks she's prettier than me, and then I want to show off that I have a bigger butt than her. No, that's nowhere near where my mind is at. So I think one of the pretty girl homework assignments that you can do is when you think about your favorite hobbies, why do you like those hobbies? So in my case with going to the beach, I like going there because I like the color of the water. I like, I actually get excited to see what color the water is going to be because some beaches have blue water, other beaches have like brown water, some of them have greenish water. So I literally get excited about that. So it's like the anticipation. That's part of what makes me feel soft. Having something to look forward to, that's the soft life. So I'm anticipating, oh wow, what color is the water going to be? And then another thing I like about the beach is like the sound that the waves make when they're hitting the shore because different beaches have different sounds. So if I go to a lake, for example, and maybe there's a lot of rock, it's going to make a different sound versus when there's sand. So even like looking at the colors of the sand, I'm a very sensory oriented person. So I love the feeling of the sand between my toes or like feeling the temperature of the water. Like one time I was actually disappointed when I was in Mexico and the water, it was actually hot. It was like very warm. I was like, what the heck? Why is the water so warm? I thought that the water would be like cold. I don't know. Um, so I think that's another thing too is looking forward to the different sensations and kind of like there's almost like this sense of wanderlust that I have sometimes. And I think that's what makes me feel like I'm living the soft life. So when I go on a walk, for me, it's not just about the walking, it's about seeing the trees and like what color the trees are right now. And especially with fall coming up, that's another reason I love fall is because the trees change colors. Well, it depends on where you live though, because in some places the trees and stuff don't change colors as drastically. But even when I'm going on my walk, I'm not thinking of competing with other women. My life is not a competition. See, that's how I know when somebody's jealous because, they try to make everything about me into a competition. Okay, well, I'm in a beauty contest with her. Okay, well, I'm in a lifestyle contest with her. Well, I'm in a wealth contest with her. Well, I'm in a relationship contest with her. Oh, my man, my man, my man. She can't keep a man. Okay, so I won. So that's actually a symptom of jealousy. It's competing with other women and measuring yourself against those women. But the soft life to me has nothing to do with other women at all. Like I'm not thinking about other women when I'm walking. I'm not thinking, oh, I'm going to look better than them when I walk past them. Oh, let me bump into this girl on purpose. Have you ever had a girl bump into you on purpose? Like they bump your shoulder or they step on your toe on purpose. Have you ever had somebody do that to you? Because that's happened to me so many times where like I'll be walking and then somebody's walking towards me and she tries to directly bump into me. I mean, that was more of a thing though, I would say like 10 years ago. It's not so much of a thing now, but when I was younger, that was definitely more common where some women, they want to bump into me. So it's like, wow, you are so centered around me that you can't even walk straight. Like, imagine how obsessed you have to be with another woman to where you can't even walk straight. You just have to bump into her. You have to purposely shoulder bump her. You have to purposely try to trip her. That's actually happened to me before too when I was a teenager. It was more so with boys though. Like sometimes I'd be walking and just looking cute, and then some boy tries to trip me when I'm walking. But I just feel like my journey to having the soft life, it was a very personal journey. It was based on introspection. It was based on me like doing journal prompts and thinking to myself, okay, how can I make today feel like a softer version versus what it is? And also the soft life, it doesn't mean a perfect life. It doesn't mean you never have problems because that's impossible. There's no such thing as perfection. Everybody has problems. Every privilege that you have has a dark side to it. There are pros and cons to everything. So just like there's pretty privilege, there's also pretty punishment, like the girl bumping into me on purpose or whatever, or getting heckled and catcalled and stuff. That's an example of the downside of a privilege. So even if you are living the soft life, it doesn't mean that it's a perfect life. And I've noticed that women who are jealous, they'll try to call out your lifestyle. They'll call out the flaws in your life so they can discredit you. And it's like, okay, that's how I know you're not living the soft life, because anybody who is living a soft life knows that the soft life doesn't mean a perfect life. It doesn't mean that your finances are flawless or, your beauty is flawless. And a lot of people, they stereotype me as being vain because I talk about pretty privilege. But the majority of my content is actually not about pretty privilege. This is a variety channel. So the way that this channel works is I have a bunch of different series on the channel. So just like how when you watch a TV channel, there are a bunch of different shows on that channel, right? It's not all the same thing. But most content creators, they keep remaking the same video over and over because that's what goes viral in the algorithm. That does help you in the algorithm, but I'm not here because of the algorithm. That was not my purpose of creating this YouTube channel. And by the way, you should probably diversify your income too. That's another way to stop chasing the algorithm, because then you can just get off YouTube. You could just have a Patreon or a members page. But I feel like when it comes to the soft life, there's almost this stereotype that the soft life is just Pilates and matcha and divestment and swirling and creating mixed children and then wearing your hair straight and getting fillers, I guess, maybe getting a couple surgeries. And it's like, okay, that's only one version of the soft life. And if I'm going based on my internalized standard of mermaids and elves, okay, so I'll use mermaids as an example again. Mermaids, they like going swimming, they like singing, like in the movies and stuff. So that's a sign that my internalized standard is maybe going swimming or being near the water and then maybe singing a song, listening to music. Sometimes I just listen to music in my room and like I don't do anything else. I'm literally just listening to music. Maybe I'll be like painting my nails or doing a facial, and that makes me feel soft. So notice how I didn't have to spend thousands of dollars in order to feel soft. So just because you have to break the bank, just because you have to go broke or you have to spend 10K just so you can feel emotionally safe, well, I don't have to do that because I didn't put that limiting belief on myself. That's a limiting belief. Oh, I can only be happy if I drive a car that's nicer than hers. I have to be living a better life than the pretty woman. Okay, you're still using me as your benchmark. So like I said, a lot of us, we are the standard of beauty, but we're also a standard of living. So that's why you see a lot of people constantly comparing their lifestyle to us, because we are the standard of living. We're the standard of social climbing, we're the standard of hypergamy, we are standard of beauty. And if you want to figure out what your standard of the soft life is, you could also think about the hardest time of your life. What was the worst time of your life? Just think about the hardest time of your life and do the opposite. So in my case, the worst time in my life, one example is working 9-to-5 jobs that I hated. I did that several times. Okay, so now just do the opposite. Work a non 9-to-5, so start a business or do something else where you're not on the 9-to-5 schedule and do something you like. So you know how I talk about hater archetypes and how when you want to make friends, just go for the opposite. So if your hater archetype is overweight white women, that means your friendship archetype is going to be the opposite, skinny black women. So I think the same way when it comes to lifestyle. If my standard of the hard life is being ugly and overweight and being male centered, then that means that my soft life is the opposite. So it's being thin and a healthy weight and decentered. So that's a good way to figure out what your lifestyle standards are. You can think about the hardest time in your life and then just do the exact opposite of that. So, for example, for me, being in a suburb, being born and raised, growing up in a small suburb of a small town, well, the opposite of that would be being in a really big city. So I'm not in a small town suburb anymore. I'm in a very big city, living in the middle of the city, right in the middle of all the action. So you can figure out your soft life standard by just looking at your best and worst memories. And I also had to figure out my core values. So, for example, I hate when everything is the exact same. Like, I hate making the same video over and over, doing the same topic over and over. That's very boring to me. Or living the same day over and over. I just go work, grocery store, gym, home. That's it. That sounds very boring. So, I've noticed that one of my core values is expanding myself and also having variety, because boredom, when I say boredom, actually it's really not boredom, it's more so being repetitive, repetitive stuff, living the same monotonous day over and over for decades. That is a depression trigger for me because I don't feel like I'm growing. I don't feel like I'm opening my mind. Being closed minded actually comes from being around the same people, doing the same thing in the same environment all the time. That's what causes someone to become closed off because they don't experience anything new. So I like having novelty. I like trying new things. I've tried a lot of new hobbies and stuff. So even if I don't stick with the hobby, that's okay, as long as I tried it. I put myself out there. I showed up to the Pilates class, I showed up to yoga, I showed up to badminton, and then I played the game. So it's not so much about liking everything I do, it's about having this mindset of going out and trying it. And a lot of women are too scared to do stuff by themselves. And it's like, what's the point of being scared? You could make friends at the class. So if you're an exotical, if you're a pretty girl, get your pretty ass up and go to the cooking class. You could make friends at the class. Or you could just have fun and, eat a good meal. And then you're taking yourself out on an adventure instead of waiting for a man to do it. You're not waiting for other women to give you permission to go to the cooking class. Like, no, you're taking initiative. So I think that getting up and actually being bold enough and having the courage, that opened the door to the soft life for me. And I'm not saying that I live the softest life in the world because, like I said, it's not a competition. This is not, I'm not competing to live a softer life than you. It's more so I have found a way to be satisfied and be happy with what I have. And part of doing that was having the courage to go to class by myself, having the courage to learn a new language by myself, basically. So I had to find the class in my city. That's actually how I found the class. You want to know how I found my class? I found it because I wanted to live the soft life and I wanted to level up. I had just broken up with my ex-boyfriend and I was like, okay, I want to get better at this language. I have free time. So every evening, I'm going to go to the coffee shop by myself and I'm going to pretend like I'm a college student and I'm just going to bring my notebook and I'm going to practice my language with my laptop at the coffee shop. So I started doing that. And then one day I was sitting at the coffee shop. There was nowhere to sit. So I had to sit at a table next to somebody. And there was a man sitting across from me. And this man, he was an anesthesiologist. He was working on some stuff for his clinic or like for his office or whatever that he owned. And so then the guy, he started talking to me. And then we had a whole conversation. And he was like, oh, wait, you're learning that language? They have a free class and it's only a couple miles away from here. So I wouldn't have had access to that class. I would have never known about that class had I not had the courage to go to the coffee shop by myself, to learn the language by myself, and to sit at a table with a random person by myself. I wouldn't have had access to this class. And then now I just learned about another free class as well. So I might go to that. Who knows? I mean, I just feel like part of the soft life is just letting life take you down a different path and not being afraid of the unknown. A lot of women are scared of the unknown. So that's why they trap themselves into one identity. They feel like, no, I can only dress this way. I can only talk like this. They feel like every change they make is a betrayal to their identity. And it's like, no, well, for me personally, my identity is actually fluid and multifaceted. For some women, they're very one dimensional. So, okay, fine. If you're one dimensional, you can be that. But in my case, I like exploring. And I think that having the courage to do stuff by myself, it has actually made other people connect with me. It makes other people want to talk to me more. I wouldn't have this YouTube channel if it weren't for doing things by myself. Nobody told me to start this channel. I literally started it by myself. I was sitting in my kitchen, typing up notes, creating a random YouTube channel by myself. Do you know how many people think that's lame? Some people think it's stupid to start YouTube channels. Well, now a lot of people are trying to do it, but there are some people that think it's lame. Like, who are you to start a channel? Who are you to have a voice? Who do you think you are going to that cooking class? Who do you think you are going to Pilates? And it's like, no, I'm not going to let those voices get in my head, because you don't get to control my self-perception. If I want to live my life like a real life princess or a real life mermaid, I can. And if I want to walk around with a sparkly headband on and some glittery nail polish, then I will. And nobody's going to stop me, because that's my standard for the soft life. But going back to my favorite ethereal creatures, okay, so there's the mermaid. She likes the ocean. When I think about fairies, fairies are very whimsical, not just how they look, but also their personality. And I'm thinking about like Tinkerbell and stuff. They wear a lot of sparkly clothes. They have, like, on the movies, usually there's sparkles and there's glitter that's like coming from their body as they fly. So yes, I am going to wear glitter sometimes. Yes, I'm going to wear a sparkly bracelet, and I might dress in a way that looks a little bit cringy, but I think that it's pretty. I'm meeting my internalized beauty standard. That's a part of my standard for the soft life. Beauty, it's not the number one thing in my life, but it's definitely important. It's in the top 5 for sure. And a lot of people, when it comes to beauty, they'll be like, oh no, I put financial stability above beauty. I don't want to be pretty and poor. But it's like, okay, your standards for poor, that's actually subjective. Because you're calling women on YouTube broke and poor, but if you live in the United States, if you were born and raised in the US, you're actually in the top percentage of rich people in the world. So even that phrase poor, that's actually subjective. So, if you're considering me to be poor because I'm not a multi-billionaire, well, that's not my definition of poor. And even if it is poor, okay, well, I'd rather be poor and pretty than poor and ugly. So calling people poor and broke, that's really not the diss that you think it is, because you're not telling people what your standards are for poverty. Poverty in the United States is nowhere near poverty in Africa or, in Latin America or something. So, that's another thing too. Sometimes people will be like, oh, you shouldn't wear glittery stuff. You need to be spending all your money paying off your debts, and you need to be, and I'm not saying you shouldn't, because yes, I do pay bills and all that, but they'll try to make it like you're somehow irresponsible if you want to spend money on a hobby. And it's like, no, you don't get to decide what's responsible for me. You are not my mother. You're not my father. You are not my financial advisor. So you don't get to tell me that because I am taking a class that that's a waste of money. No, for you it would be a waste of money, because the only thing you do is go to work and come home and go to the store. That's all that you allow yourself to spend money on. So your money standards, that's not the same as my money standard. You're the one that's paying that high-ass car payment. Over here bragging about a car, you're paying a high-ass car payment. I don't believe in car payments. So that's okay if your car is more fancy than mine. But guess what? For me, the soft life means not paying a car payment. So if that means that I don't have a 2027 BMW or something, then that's okay. I don't feel like a failure or anything like that, because the purpose for me was to not pay a car payment and to have my car just paid in full, paid in cash. So women who are leveled down, women who live a hard life, they try to impose their standards on you. And so they want you to feel guilty for your lifestyle. They want you to feel guilt for being pretty, or they want you to feel guilt for going to the beach or something. And by the way, I actually have talked shit about the beach on here before. I don't have any beef with the beach. It's more so the people that try to use the beach to flex on others. They try to use the beach to flex their socioeconomic status on others. I don't support that because that's an external locus of control. And I don't want the exoticals to be like that. Just let the women with inferiority complexes do that. Let them put pressure on themselves to post pictures on the beach. I don't even share my shit on social media. Like, a lot of people, they only go on vacation so they can post it online. Why would I do that? I have never in my life said, oh, I'm going to pay thousands so I can go to Disneyland so I can post it on Instagram. I have never done that. I have traveled to so many places and you would never know because none of it is posted on the internet. Because I don't have to prove who I am to other people. For some women, their standard of the soft life is proving themselves to others. That's it. They're exposing their standard. It's like, ma'am, your whole life revolves around proving yourself to others. Oh, well, let me prove that I can be the beauty standard. Well, let me prove that I'm desirable by white men. Well, let me prove that I'm related to mixed people. Well, let me prove that I have a better car than so and so at work. So, your standard of the soft life is really based on seeking approval from others. Have fun with that. I'm not doing that. But what do you ladies think? What are some of the soft life hobbies that you've done this month? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.